I used to believe silence meant peace. I used to believe trust it didn't need proof. I used to believe love was enough. My name is Joseph, and this is the story of how the woman I trusted most quietly destroyed everything, and how karma hit hard when she least expected it. I never planned revenge. I never imagined myself as someone who would sit in the dark, listening more than speaking, watching instead of reacting. But betrayal doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in slowly, smiling at you across the dinner table, calling you love, and kissing you goodnight like nothing is wrong. That morning started like any other. The alarm rang at 6. I turned it off before it could wake her. She always said she needed her sleep. I moved quietly, like I always did, careful not to disturb the woman who once promised she'd always protect my heart. I stood in the bathroom mirror longer than usual that day. Something felt off, not fear, not anger, just a strange weight in my chest, like my body knew the truth before my mind was ready to accept it. We had been married for 9 years. 9 years of building routines, habits, memories. 9 years of shared jokes, shared bills, shared dreams. From the outside, we looked solid, stable, happy. People used to tell me I was lucky. She's beautiful, they'd say. She's supportive, they'd say. She really loves you, they'd say. I believed them. I wanted to believe them. But love changes when respect disappears. I didn't know that then. I was still living in the version of reality where loyalty was automatic, not something you had to question. When I walked into the kitchen, she was already there, coffee brewing, phone in her hand. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I replied. That was it. No kiss, no warmth. Just a word exchanged like coworkers starting a shift. She used to ask about my day before it even began. She used to care. Now her eyes stayed glued to her phone, thumbs moving fast, like the world inside that screen mattered more than the man standing in front of her. I noticed small things first. That's how betrayal always starts, not with proof, with patterns. She guarded her phone like it was a secret vault. Notifications turned off, screen always facing down. If I walked into the room, she'd lock it instantly. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself I was becoming paranoid. That's what loyal people do. They blame themselves before questioning the ones they love. Weeks passed, then months, and the distance between us grew wider without a single argument. That was the strange part. There were no fights, no shouting, just silence, emotional silence. The kind that feels louder than words. She started working late, or at least, that's what she said. Big project, she explained. Deadlines, she said. Don't wait up, she added. I nodded. I always nodded. I became the understanding husband, the patient one, the one who trusted without asking questions. But trust without awareness isn't strength, it's blindness. One night she came home smelling different. Not bad, just unfamiliar, a scent that didn't belong to our house. I noticed it the moment she walked past me. New perfume? I asked casually. She froze, just for half a second, but I saw it. Oh, yeah, she said quickly. Someone at work had it. I liked it. She laughed, too fast, too loud. That was the first crack. From that moment on, I started paying attention. Not aggressively, quietly. I stopped confronting and started observing. I stopped reacting and started remembering. She stopped saying my name when she talked to me. She stopped sharing stories. She stopped asking questions. And the worst part? She started treating me like I was already gone. You can feel betrayal before you can prove it. Your heart knows when it's no longer safe, even when your mind is still holding on to hope. Late at night, while she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying moments in my head. Conversations that didn't make sense. Smiles that felt forced. Excuses that didn't add up. I asked myself the question I had been avoiding. What if she's not just distant? What if she's already chosen someone else? That question hurt more than any answer ever could. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I didn't accuse her. Instead, I did something that would later change everything. I stayed quiet, because silence is powerful, when you're the only one who knows it's temporary. I started waking up earlier, going to bed later, creating space, watching how she moved through her own lies, watching how easily she switched versions of herself depending on who was in the room. And slowly, painfully, the truth began to reveal itself, not through confrontation, but through carelessness. She thought I was unaware. She thought I was weak. She thought I would never notice. That was her biggest mistake, because when someone believes you're blind, they stop hiding, and that's when karma quietly begins its work. I didn't know it yet, but the woman I loved was already living a double life, and the moment I finally saw it clearly, I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my story. This was only the beginning. I used to think love faded loudly, like shouting, like slammed doors, like fights that shook the walls. I was wrong. Love fades quietly. It fades in missed calls, in delayed replies, in smiles that arrive late and leave early. After that first crack, I couldn't unsee things anymore. It was like someone had adjusted the focus on my life. What once felt normal now felt staged, rehearsed, artificial. She started living on a schedule that no longer included me. Her mornings became rushed, no conversations, no shared coffee. She'd grab her bag, check her phone, and rush out the door like she was already late for someone else's life. Evenings were worse. She'd come home tired, but not the kind of tired that comes from work. It was emotional exhaustion, the kind that happens when you've spent the whole day pretending to be someone you're not. I'd ask simple questions. How was your day? Did the meeting go well? Are you okay? She answered, but never really answered. Fine, busy, same as always. Same as always, but nothing felt the same. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch. She'd choose the far end, legs tucked in, phone glowing in her hands like it was the only light she trusted. Sometimes she smiled at the screen. That smile hurt more than anger ever could, because I realized something painful in those moments. She was happy, just not with me. Weekends used to be ours. Grocery runs, long drives, late breakfasts. Now weekends were me time, or girls' plans, or office stuff. I never checked. I never followed. I never demanded proof. I watched, and the more I watched, the clearer her second life became. She dressed differently when she went out without me. More effort, more care. Clothes she never wore around the house anymore. The same house where she once said she felt safest. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the bed. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't touch it, but the name flashed on the lock screen. A man's name I didn't recognize. My chest tightened, but my face stayed calm. That was the moment I stopped asking if something was happening, and started asking how long. I wanted to confront her right then. I wanted to demand answers. I wanted to hear her deny it so I could pretend everything was okay again. But deep down, I knew the truth. If I confronted her too early, she'd lie better. So I chose patience, painful patience. I began noticing how she'd leave the room to take calls, how her phone was always on silent, how she'd tilt the screen away from me like I was a threat. We slept in the same bed, but it felt like miles apart. Some nights, she turned her back to me before I even closed my eyes, and I realized something terrifying. You can be faithful and still be abandoned. I replayed our past in my head, tried to find the moment I failed, tried to understand where I went wrong, but the more I searched, the clearer it became. This wasn't about me. This was about choices she made when she thought no one was watching. I started documenting everything, not on paper, in my mind. Dates, times, patterns, her excuses, her tone. She underestimated my silence. She thought quiet meant weak, but quiet meant I was preparing myself for the truth. One evening she told me she'd be home late again. "Don't wait," she said casually. I nodded. But this time, I didn't sit on the couch. I didn't turn on the TV. I stood by the window and watched her walk to her car. She didn't look back. That hurt more than I expected. That night, I finally accepted what my heart had been screaming for months. I wasn't part of her future anymore. I was just part of her cover. And the saddest part? She believed I'd never find out. She believed I was still the same trusting man who wouldn't question her stories. She was wrong, because once trust breaks, something else is born in its place. Awareness. And awareness doesn't shout. It waits. I didn't know how I would expose the truth yet. I didn't know when everything would collapse, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her secret life was built on lies, and lies always fall apart, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. And when they do, karma doesn't knock, it walks straight in. There's a moment in every betrayal story where doubt dies. Not slowly, not gently. It dies all at once. For me, that moment came on a Thursday night I still remember too clearly. It had been raining all evening, the kind of rain that blurs streetlights and makes the world feel smaller, quieter. She came home later than usual, shoes wet, hair slightly messy, jacket smelling like cold air and something else I couldn't place. She barely looked at me. "I'm exhausted," she said, already walking past me toward the bedroom. "I'm going to shower and sleep." No explanation, no apology, no eye contact. I stood there alone in the living room, listening to the bathroom door close. The sound echoed louder than it should have. That night, something inside me snapped, not into anger, but into clarity. I didn't want guesses anymore. I didn't want theories. I needed the truth, even if it destroyed me. When the shower started, I went into the bedroom. Slowly, like I was stepping into a crime scene. Her bag was on the chair. She usually kept it close, always zipped, always careful. But that night she forgot. I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I told myself I wouldn't look. I told myself I still trusted her. But trust had already been broken. I was just the last one to accept it. I opened the bag. At first, nothing looked unusual. Wallet, makeup, keys. Then I saw it. A receipt, folded, crumpled, like it wasn't supposed to be found. A hotel receipt. Not near her office, not near our home, but across town. My hands started shaking. One night, one room, two people. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the paper burning in my hands like fire. My mind tried to fight it, tried to explain it away. Maybe it's a work thing. Maybe she helped a friend. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew. You don't book hotels when you're loyal. You don't hide receipts when you're innocent. The shower turned off. I folded the receipt back exactly how I found it, placed it back in her bag, closed it carefully. By the time she walked into the room, my face was calm. That scared me. She smiled faintly, the same fake smile I'd seen too many times recently. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yes," I said. And that was the moment I realized something about myself. I was capable of lying too. That night she fell asleep quickly, peacefully, like someone without guilt. I didn't sleep at all. I stared at the ceiling until morning, replaying every memory of us, every promise. Every night I defended her when people joked about loyalty like it was optional. By sunrise, I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was awake. The next few days, I moved like a ghost through my own life. I went to work. I smiled at people. I answered emails. But inside, something had changed permanently. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an observer. I started noticing details with painful clarity. She checked her phone first thing every morning, before brushing her teeth, before saying good morning to me. She locked herself in the bathroom to reply to messages. She deleted call logs. She changed passwords. One afternoon, while she was out with friends, I did something I never thought I'd do. I logged into our shared computer. She had forgotten to log out of her email. I hesitated. This was the line. Once crossed, there was no going back. Then I crossed it. There were dozens of emails, normal ones, work ones, and then a thread with no subject. My stomach dropped. Short messages, simple words. "Last night was perfect. I miss you already. When can we meet again?" They weren't poetic, they weren't dramatic, they were casual, and that hurt the most. Because it meant this wasn't new. This was routine. This was comfortable. This was a second life she had settled into while I waited at home believing in loyalty. I didn't read everything. I couldn't. I closed the laptop and sat there in silence, my hands numb, my chest tight. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I felt something colder than sadness, resolve. Confrontation would give her control. She'd cry. She'd deny. She'd twist the story. Maybe she'd even blame me. I wasn't ready for that. I wanted her to feel safe. Safe enough to make mistakes. Safe enough to expose herself. So I acted normal. I laughed at her jokes. I asked about her day. I played my role perfectly. And she believed it. That was the most painful part. She believed I was still blind. One night, as we lay in bed, she rolled toward me and rested her head on my chest, something she hadn't done in months. "You've been distant," she said softly. I almost laughed. "I've just been tired," I replied. She nodded and closed her eyes. That was the moment I understood something deeply. Betrayal isn't just about cheating. It's about rewriting reality and expecting the other person to live in the lie. And I was done living in lies. I didn't know how my revenge would look yet. I didn't even know if revenge was the right word. All I knew was this: she thought the truth was buried. She thought I'd never dig deep enough. She was wrong, because when a man stops asking questions, it doesn't mean he's given up. It means he's already found answers, and the storm she didn't see coming was already forming. Once you know the truth, everything changes. Not the world, not the people. You change. After I found the proof, I stopped hoping I was wrong. Hope is dangerous when the truth is already standing in front of you. It makes you delay the inevitable. It makes you suffer longer than necessary. I didn't want hope anymore. I wanted clarity, and clarity came faster than I expected. 2 weeks after I found the emails, she told me she was going on a work retreat. 3 days, out of town, no phone signal, she said. Team building, strategy sessions. She even showed me an email as proof, but the email was too clean, too perfect, like it had been written for me, not for work. I nodded. I smiled. I told her to have a good trip. The night before she left, she packed carefully, matching clothes, fresh makeup, a new dress I had never seen before. She never wore dresses on work trips. That night, she tried to be affectionate, not loving, performative. She kissed me longer than usual, told me she loved me, said she missed us. I said nothing, because love spoken too late sounds like guilt, not truth. The morning she left, I watched her drive away again, just like before. No glance back, no hesitation. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I felt something strange, relief, because now I didn't have to pretend. That afternoon, I did something I had been avoiding. I followed the thread. I logged back into the email, the one she thought I'd never see, and this time, I read everything. They talked about me, not cruelly, worse, casually. He trusts me completely. He's busy with work. He won't suspect anything. That was when the betrayal became real. Not because she cheated, but because she reduced me to an obstacle, a background character in my own marriage. The other man had a name, a face, a life that overlapped with mine without my consent. He wasn't some stranger. He was someone she had known for years, someone who had been around our social circle, someone who had sat at our table once. That detail broke something inside me. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't temptation. This was intentional. They had plans, trips, inside jokes, a future that didn't include me, and the worst part, she talked about leaving me. Not out of guilt, out of convenience. She wanted a smooth exit, no drama, no consequences. I closed the laptop and sat in silence for a long time. I realized something then. I wasn't fighting for her anymore. I was fighting for my dignity. That night, I didn't call her. I didn't message her. I didn't check if she arrived safely. And she didn't notice. She was too busy living the life she thought she deserved. On the second day of her retreat, I got a message from her. "Signal is bad. Miss you." I stared at it. Then I typed back, "Miss you too. Take care." That message sealed, because I had officially become invisible. On the third day, everything collapsed, not because I confronted her, because she got careless. A mutual friend called me that evening. "Hey," he said slowly, "I thought you should know something." My chest tightened. "I saw your wife today. She was at the hotel by the river, the same hotel, the one on the receipt. She wasn't alone," he added. That was it. No more theories, no more maybes, just truth. When she came home that night, she looked relaxed, happy, lighter. She talked about the retreat, the sessions, the long meetings, the exhaustion. She lied with ease. I watched her lie, and for the first time I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just distance. Later that night, when she was asleep, I stood over her, studying her face, the same face I once thought I knew completely. I whispered a question she would never hear. How long did you think this would last? That was the moment I stopped seeing her as my wife. She was now part of my past. She just didn't know it yet. Because betrayal has a strange side effect. It teaches patience, and patience, when mixed with truth, becomes power. I wasn't going to expose her immediately. I wasn't going to shout or beg or plead. I was going to let her feel safe, safe enough to believe she'd won. Because the hardest fall comes when you think you're standing on solid ground, and her ground was already cracking. After the truth settles in, something strange happens. The noise inside you fades, not because the pain is gone, but because your heart stops arguing with reality. That's where I was. I didn't wake up angry anymore. I didn't feel the need to check her phone, follow her movements, or analyze her words. I already knew everything I needed to know. The war inside me was over. Now came the calm. From the outside, nothing changed. We still lived in the same house, ate at the same table, shared the same bed. If anyone looked at us, they would see a normal couple. But emotionally, I had already left. I stopped expecting honesty from her. I stopped asking questions. I stopped reacting. And she noticed. "You're quiet lately," she said one evening. "Just tired," I replied. She accepted that answer easily. Because when someone is lying, they don't want depth, they want silence. I used that. I started preparing, not with rage, but with precision. I reviewed finances, accounts, shared assets, things I had once trusted blindly. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I took notes, made copies, and asked questions quietly where needed. I wasn't planning destruction. I was planning protection. At night, while she texted him beside me, I thought about the future, not ours, mine. What kind of man did I want to be when this ended? Bitter, broken, or calm and free? I chose calm. I began waking up earlier, working out again, reconnecting with friends I had drifted away from, building a life she wasn't part of anymore. She didn't notice. She thought my silence meant acceptance. But silence doesn't always mean surrender. Sometimes it means strategy. She continued her affair with confidence now, more careless, less cautious. She stayed out later, smiled more, lied faster, and every lie gave me more clarity. One night she told me she was going out with friends. She kissed my cheek quickly and left. An hour later she posted a photo online. Dinner. Candlelight. A wine glass across from hers. Not tagged, not labeled. But I recognized the place. I didn't react. I saved it. Because the truth doesn't need anger. It needs timing. I started imagining the moment everything would come out. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just undeniable. No shouting, no begging, no denial. Just truth standing in the middle of the room. That thought gave me peace. For the first time in months, I slept well. She came home late that night, slipped into bed quietly. "Sorry," she whispered. "We lost track of time." I nodded. I didn't ask who we was, because I already knew, and because soon she would too. Every storm has a moment of stillness before it breaks. And in that stillness, decisions are made. I had made mine. I wasn't going to expose her out of anger. I was going to let her choices speak for themselves. Because when karma arrives, it doesn't scream. It simply shows the truth to everyone who needs to see it. People think revenge is loud. They imagine shouting, accusations, public scenes, slamming doors. That was never my plan, because the strongest move I made was letting her believe she was winning. By the time Section 5 ended, I was no longer reacting emotionally. I had crossed into a different state of mind, one where feelings existed, but they no longer controlled my actions. I didn't hate her. I didn't even want her to hurt. I wanted the truth to land where it belonged, on her, without me forcing it. The first thing I did was stop playing the role of the suspicious husband completely. No questions, no tension, no distance that could trigger guilt. Instead, I became easier, kinder, more agreeable, and that confused her. She started coming home later than usual, expecting tension, expecting resistance, maybe even confrontation, but I gave her none. "Everything okay?" she asked one night. "Yeah," I said calmly. "Why wouldn't it be?" She watched my face closely, like she was searching for something. She didn't find it. That was step one. Because when someone expects conflict and gets calm instead, they relax. They stop guarding their behavior. They start making mistakes. And she did. I let her talk. I listened more than ever. Not because I cared about her excuses, but because people reveal everything when they feel safe. She told stories that contradicted themselves, changed timelines, forgot lies she had told just days before. I never corrected her. I let the lies pile up. Then I started positioning the truth, carefully, quietly. I began reconnecting with people in our shared circle, friends we hadn't seen in months, dinners, casual catch-ups, nothing suspicious. She didn't object. She thought it made us look normal. She didn't realize she was slowly losing control of the narrative. At one dinner, someone mentioned a hotel by the river. Her fork froze midair. "Nice place," the friend said. "Saw a couple there recently." She laughed too quickly. "Oh, really?" I said nothing. That silence spoke louder than anything else. Later that night, she asked me, "Do you trust me?" I looked at her. Fully. Calmly. "Yes," I said. And for the first time, she looked afraid. Not because she was caught, but because something didn't feel right. From that moment on, she started watching me, checking my mood, my phone, my behavior. She felt the shift. She just didn't understand it. Meanwhile, I was tying loose ends. I separated finances quietly, made sure nothing could be twisted or hidden, not for revenge, but for clarity. I wasn't taking anything that wasn't mine. I just made sure nothing could disappear. I also wrote something for myself. Not a message. Not a confrontation. A timeline. Dates, locations, words she used, lies she repeated, proof she didn't know existed. Not to punish her, but to protect the truth when the time came. Because truth doesn't need emotion. It needs structure. She became careless as weeks passed. She started bringing her phone into the shower, leaving it unlocked sometimes, trusting me again. One night she fell asleep early. Her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to, because the plan was already in motion. The plan wasn't about exposure. It was about alignment. I wanted the truth to reveal itself naturally, through her own actions, in front of people she cared about. So when it happened, no one would doubt it. I didn't set traps. I removed shields, and without shields, people expose themselves. She started talking about the future again, about travel, about fixing things. That was the most ironic part. She wanted to repair a marriage she had already replaced. I nodded. I smiled. I let her dream, because dreams built on lies collapse faster than nightmares. The final step was simple. I stopped protecting her image, not by speaking, but by stepping aside. And once I did that, the truth stepped forward on its own. She just didn't realize yet that karma was no longer behind the scenes. It was already walking toward her, and when it arrived, it would be quiet, clean, and impossible to deny. The moment had finally come, not because I forced it, not because I screamed, not because I confronted her in anger. It came because truth doesn't need drama. It only needs opportunity. Weeks of patience, observation, and careful preparation led to this night. She believed she was untouchable, confident, careless, safe. I stayed calm, as always. I had rehearsed nothing. I had prepared everything. That evening, we attended a small gathering at a mutual friend's house. Casual, nothing suspicious, just people laughing, sharing drinks, and pretending life was simpler than it really was. She mingled freely, smiled easily, bragged quietly about her business trip and the long meetings she had handled flawlessly. Everyone believed her. Except me. I didn't interrupt. I didn't accuse, I just observed. Then came the moment she thought she could joke openly. "Oh, the hotel by the river," she said lightly to a friend. "It was very nice. You know, just a cozy little getaway." Her smile faltered when she realized her audience included more than just her friends. And that's when I acted. Not loudly, not with anger. I simply asked in my calmest voice, "Cozy getaway? That's the hotel you stayed at last week, right?" The room fell silent. Eyes darted. Forks paused midair. Conversation stopped. She froze. I mean, she stammered. I looked around. Friends exchanged glances, confused, concerned. I held up a folded piece of paper, the receipt she forgot she left in her bag weeks ago. The one I had saved. Looks like someone's cozy getaway wasn't as business-related as we thought, I said softly. Her face went pale, words escaped her, breath caught. She realized finally that her lies were no longer safe. Everyone could see it, the pattern, the truth. The betrayal wasn't a secret anymore. It didn't need to be explained. The proof spoke louder than any argument could. I didn't yell, I didn't attack, I didn't shame her. I let her silence do that. She sat there, speechless. Everyone around her processed the reality that had been hidden for months. It was subtle, quiet, but devastating. Karma doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply arrives. And it hit her harder than any confrontation ever could. I watched as the confidence drained from her eyes. The composure disappeared. The lies dissolved. The crowd whispered. Some friends turned to me, offering awkward glances. I smiled faintly, not out of triumph, not out of malice, but out of peace. The calm that comes from knowing truth always finds its way. I didn't gloat. I didn't explain. I let her actions, her choices, her deception speak for themselves. That night she realized something essential. No amount of manipulation, no number of lies, no charm could shield her from reality. And for the first time in months, she felt the weight of her own choices. I excused myself quietly, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions in the room she thought was safe. Outside, I breathed deeply. My chest was lighter, my mind clearer, because I had learned the most powerful lesson of all. Revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about letting truth do the work while you stay true to yourself. She had believed she could hide. She had believed she could control. She had believed she could get away. Karma didn't need to chase her. It simply waited and arrived, and that, more than any scream, any confrontation, any argument, was justice served perfectly. After that night, everything changed. Not suddenly, not violently, not with drama. It changed quietly, the way life always does after a storm passes. She didn't stay. That much was clear. I didn't force her to leave. She made that decision herself, but it was no longer my concern. I had watched enough to know that trying to hold on to someone who chose to betray trust only traps you in misery. I stayed. I stayed for me. For months afterward, I rebuilt my life. Not in haste, not for revenge, not to prove anything to her or anyone else. But because peace comes from rebuilding yourself, not dismantling others. I started small. Simple routines I had abandoned when life felt perfect. Early mornings, long walks, journals, conversations with friends who reminded me who I was before trust was shattered. I allowed myself to feel everything I had suppressed during the months of betrayal, anger, heartbreak, disbelief. But I also allowed myself to heal. Slowly, without shortcuts, without forcing it. I didn't need closure from her. Closure came from within. I didn't seek apologies or explanations. I didn't need to confront her again. The lesson was clear. You cannot control the choices of others, but you can control your own response. I began noticing small joys again. Sunsets, coffee on quiet mornings, books, music, the way my own thoughts felt like mine again. For a long time, I believed love meant clinging, holding on, trusting blindly. Now I knew better. Love also means letting go. Love means protecting your heart. Love means recognizing when loyalty has been given to someone who doesn't deserve it, and choosing yourself anyway. I also learned the quiet power of patience. The satisfaction of letting truth work while you remain calm is unlike anything else. There's no rush, there's no performance, there's no emotional exhaustion. Karma doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it simply shows up in the quietest, most undeniable way, leaving the guilty speechless and the wronged empowered. In the end, I forgave, not for her, not because she deserved it. I forgave for me, because holding on to bitterness only prolongs suffering, and I had already suffered long enough. I rebuilt trust in myself. I rebuilt joy. I rebuilt clarity. And in that reconstruction I found strength. Strength I didn't know I had when love felt easy. Strength I discovered when betrayal hit hard. Strength I claimed when karma did its work without my interference. Now I move forward, with lessons learned, with dignity intact, with a heart that is cautious but open. And I carry one truth above all: trust wisely, love fully, protect your peace, and let truth always find its way. Because in the end, the world has a way of balancing itself, and you don't always have to lift a finger for justice to be served. I am Joseph. I survived betrayal. I witnessed karma hit hard, and I am stronger for it. This isn't just my story. It's a reminder for anyone who has ever loved, trusted, and lost. Stay aware, stay patient, and let life teach the lessons it intends. Time has a way of softening the sharp edges of pain. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into quiet, peaceful days. I move through my home differently now, not because the space changed, but because I had changed. Every corner, every familiar item carried memories, but they no longer weighed me down. I found comfort in the small things I had neglected before: the sunlight filtering through the blinds, the sound of coffee brewing in the morning, even the gentle hum of the city outside my window. These moments reminded me that life continues, and that joy can return even after betrayal. I also noticed the subtle shift in myself. Where there was once anger, there was calm. Where there was once doubt, there was certainty. And where there was once dependence on someone else's loyalty, there was now an unshakable reliance on my own integrity. I didn't seek revenge beyond truth. I didn't need to confront her again. Karma had done its work. She faced the consequences of her choices in ways that were undeniable, not because I exposed her, but because the truth always finds its way. Friends and family noticed the change in me. They said I seemed lighter, more centered, smarter, stronger. They couldn't see the hours I had spent reflecting, observing, and rebuilding my own life. I realized something important. Betrayal is not the end of your story. It's a turning point. It forces clarity, forces growth, forces you to confront who you really are. I also learned that forgiveness is powerful, not for the person who hurt you, but for the person who endured it. Letting go of resentment doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean excusing the betrayal. It means freeing yourself from the weight of someone else's choices. I returned to passions I had abandoned. Hobbies, work, friendships. Even small daily routines became acts of reclaiming myself. Each action reinforced the lesson I had learned: your life doesn't belong to someone else's mistakes. It belongs to you. And when I think back to the moments of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak, I realize they were necessary. Every tear, every sleepless night, every pang of doubt shaped me. They prepared me for the calm confidence I carry today. So for anyone listening, anyone who has been betrayed, anyone who feels trapped by someone else's lies, your power is not in exposing them. It's not in revenge. It's in truth, patience, and self-restoration. Trust yourself. Protect your peace. Let karma do the rest. I am Joseph. I endured betrayal. I watched karma unfold, and today I live freely, fully, and unshakably. The storm has passed, and I have grown stronger than I ever imagined.